Today's lesson is on writing fractions as decimals. After today, you will be able to fluently divide multi-digit numbers using the standard algorithm. First, we're going to look at our key idea and vocabulary. When writing a fraction as a decimal, your result is a terminating or repeating decimal. A repeating decimal repeats a pattern of one or more digits. An example of a terminating decimal would be 1/2, because that is equal to 0.5 or 5/10. An example of a repeating decimal would be 2/3, because that is equal to 0.666, and then the dots after that show that that 6 keeps going on, or it repeats. You can also write this as 0.6 with a bar over the 6 to show that it repeats. Now for our key idea. For method 1, we're writing fractions as decimals. To write a fraction as a decimal, divide the numerator by the denominator. For our first example, we're going to write 1/8 as a decimal. This would be 1 divided by 8. 8 goes into 1 0 times. So we need to then put a decimal and a 0 behind that 1 so we can continue dividing. Our decimal will go straight up in our answer. Now 8 goes into 10 one time, and 1 times 8 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2, and then we bring down our 0. Now we have 20. 8 goes into 20 2 times, and 2 times 8 is 16. 20 minus 16 is 4, and then we bring down our next 0. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. When we subtract, we get 0. Therefore, our answer is 0.125, or 125 thousandths. For B, we're going to write 5/6 as a decimal. This would be 5 divided by 6. 6 cannot go into 5, so we put a 0 above that 5. We then need to add a decimal and a 0 behind the 5 so we can continue dividing. The decimal will go straight above in the answer. 6 goes into 50 8 times, and 8 times 6 is 48. 50 minus 48 is 2, and then we bring down our 0. Now 6 goes into 20 3 times, and 3 times 6 is 18. 20 minus 18 is 2, and then we would now bring down our next 0. Now 6 goes into 20 3 times, and 3 times 6 is 18. When you subtract, you get 2. You should notice now that each time we're subtracting, we're getting 2, and then we're adding a 0, bringing it down, which gives us 20. Since this is continuing to happen, it's going to tell us that the 3 is going to repeat. So we can write this as 0.833, or, and then it shows the dots after, so it repeats, or we can write it as 0.83 with a line above the 3 to show it is repeating. This means that you have 1/8, and then the 3 is what repeats. For A, since this one ended, it was 0.125, this was a terminating decimal. For B, since we had the 3 that repeats, this would be a repeating decimal. Now we have a couple of additional examples. You can pause the video and try them on your own, or you may follow along. We want to write the fraction as a decimal, and then we want to determine if it is terminating or repeating. For number 1, we have 3/5. This would be 3 divided by 5. 5 cannot go into 3, so we're going to put a 0 above that 3. And then we need to add a decimal behind the 3 and another 0 so we can continue dividing. Our answer now will have a decimal right above where it was in the problem. 5 goes into 30 6 times, and 6 times 5 is 30. Now I'm going to subtract and get 0. Since I have nothing left, I am finished with this problem, and my answer would be 0.6, or 6 tenths. This would be a terminating decimal. 3/5 is equal to 0.6 or 6/10. For number 2, I have 1/9. This would be 1 divided by 9. 9 goes into 1 0 times. Now I need to add my decimal and my 0 so I can continue dividing. And remember that decimal goes straight above in your answer. 9 goes into 10 one time. 1 times 9 is 9. When I subtract, 10 minus 9 is 1. Since I didn't get 0, I need to continue to divide. So I'm going to add another 0, and I bring that 0 straight down. Now 9 goes into 10 one time, and 1 times 9 is 9. When I subtract 10 minus 9, I get 1. You should notice now that each time it is going in 1 time, and then when I subtract, I'm getting 1. I'm bringing a 0 down and having 10 again. So I will notice now that my 1 is repeating. So I'd write this as 0.1, and I put a little line above that 1 to show it repeats. This would be a repeating decimal. Now for our next key idea, for method 2 for writing fractions as decimals. To write a fraction as a decimal, write an equivalent fraction, if possible, whose denominator is 10, 100, or 1000. For our second example, we're writing a fraction as a decimal. We want to write 3/20 as a decimal. We can multiply 20 by 5 to get 100 on the bottom. Our goal is to get 10, 100, or 1000 on the bottom. 20 times 5 is 100, so we would multiply the numerator by 5 as well. 3 times 5 is 15. If you have 15 hundredths, you can write that as a decimal. That would be 0.15. 0.15 can also be read as 15 hundredths. Now we have a couple of additional examples. You may pause the video and try them on your own, or you can follow along. We want to write the fraction as a decimal. For the first one, for number 3, we have 4/5. We can change this so that the bottom is 10. In order to do this, we would multiply 5 times 2. Since we're multiplying the denominator by 2, we have to multiply the numerator by 2. So we'll have 4 times 2 for the numerator. This would be 8/10, which can also be written as 0.8 because 0.8 is read as 8/10. For number 4, we have 7/50. For this one, we can multiply the denominator by 2 in order to get 100. So we need to multiply the numerator by 2 as well. When we do this, 7 times 2 is 14, so I have 14 hundredths. And that can be written as 0.14 because 0.14 is 14 hundredths. Don't forget to fill out your notes, and remember you can watch the video again if needed.